Hello and welcome back to 209 Prep Sports Media. I'm in the studio by myself today, but Scott's out on the road. He's joining us via cell phone. I guess we'll start off with just, how incredible this season was that it even got, happened at all. Big thanks to some of the guys like Jason Alpa and, guys like him that went to bat for our kids, and many legislators and administrators and the schools in general. I think it's a testament to people's conviction and dedication to making sure things are done the right and proper way. And it shows that, when you're given some, strict standards, that you can still abide by those and pull off almost, what many would become, say is a miracle. Kind of what's your impression on this spring season?
Yeah, obviously it was a season unlike any other. Some of the things that, we talked about early on about having to alter a schedule around Easter. I mean, who would have thought that we would be, making our schedules for football around Easter Sunday, but that was what we were dealt with this year. And I have to say, I've gotten a lot of opportunities to speak to the local coaches, as you know, and to a lot of the athletic directors. And I just don't think we can thank them enough for what they've done, yourself included, the dedication level that it's taken on large part on our coaches, our athletic directors, our school administrators to support them in that. And it's still carrying on with the other sports that are going on right now, whether it's volleyball or baseball or basketball, but, our focus this year has been on football. And I can tell you firsthand, getting to go to a couple of games and getting to talk to these coaches and these kids, they were fired up about it just like they would be at any other time. Unfortunately for our seniors, their season was abbreviated to 5 games. And one of the things that maybe we can talk about too today is, after watching these 5 games around the area, the matchups that didn't happen. We got to see some pretty cool matchups with Escalon playing Oakdale and Oakdale playing, Hillmar, or, some of these large school, small school matchups, Linden playing Lodi and Tokay. I mean, these were matchups that were never going to happen before that actually occurred this year. And so that made it interesting. And maybe that breaks the barrier down a little bit for future seasons where maybe we can see a little bit more of that. But, I agree with you. It was great to actually see it happen. There was a time when we didn't think it was going to happen at all. So, we sit back and with the attitude of take what you can get and be thankful for it. And as a spectator, I'm thankful that we got what we got to have this year.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think, it took a small army to make sure that this was able to happen. And then it took another small army to make sure that it was carried through in the proper way with all the testing that needed to be done. We saw multiple times a game being canceled either that day or the day before, and somebody else stepping up to fill the shoes of, because they lost a game, their opponent as well. And so, I just kind of go back to I think it was Folsom Rockland or one of those, that it was like, somebody was supposed to play somebody, and within 3 hours that somebody was on the bus to play a game.
Yeah.
And it was a different world. You and I talked about it often about, what we're accustomed to and what we would have to, the concessions we're going to have to make sure this happened. Lesser fans, initially almost no fans. And then it
Right.
kind of grew to a little bit more, but no concessions, no homecomings. And so we sacrificed some things, but we also, were able to pull off a 5-week season where most teams got at least 4 games and many got 5. So I think it's a major accomplishment.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think one of the other takeaways, and I kind of mentioned it already, and this goes back to what Coach Tony Franks at St. Mary said early in the season was, this season's going to be about the seniors. And that, that seems like a cliche, but maybe more so this year than ever, because, these seniors have worked so hard. They've been, they've put in so much work, and then to keep getting told no, and then oh yeah, here we go. Here's your 5 games. That's what you get. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just the hand we were dealt. But I agree with Coach Franks in that sense that this was definitely the year for the seniors. It's my hope that the seniors who aspire to move on to the next level get that opportunity. The recruiting, the ability to make film for coaches to see, all of those things were really skewed this year. And so, hopefully they get that opportunity. And I think if you look at our local junior colleges, Delta College and Modesto Junior College, hopefully they're the recipients of some really good players because of that. And they can go there and play. And
yeah, we lost you there for a second. We lost you there for a second, but I 100% agree. I tweeted on Sunday, I believe. What did we learn from the spring season? Administration, coaches, staff, students, families can all follow guidelines to minimize risk while getting to play a full contact sport. 2, the depth of the rosters makes powerhouses more powerful. There's talent in every single school. It's just not, it's not as broad as some of the bigger schools. We also learned the TVL is a very, very good league. They would step up and play almost anybody. What else did we learn? Playing your rival and closest town is great for all involved. 5, off-season training programs are very necessary. All teams dealt with more injuries than normal due to lack of preparation. 6, the San Joaquin section is flush with talent. 7, life is short, and anyone that was lucky enough to witness a game in person this year will tell you how incredible it felt to have Friday Night Lights back. 8, when our backs are against the wall, humanity steps up and we help each other and support each other. 9, people who advocate for those who don't have a voice deserve a special place in heaven. And 10, there's nothing better in the entire world than seeing the happiness exude from the face and body language of a player. You and I've coached, for years and years and years, and I think we would, to a person agree that, the joy that we get out of seeing the joy that a child or a student athlete gets from playing that sport is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, just, really the reward as a coach is getting to see the development of a student athlete from where they start to where they finish. And, we didn't get to see that to the same extent that we normally would this year. So, but getting that opportunity here in the last few weeks to get to see these kids play, I mean, like you said, there was a lot of joy in these games and watching them play. It was a blast.
Yeah, you got to personally attend the Escalon Ripon game. I was able to attend the Kimball Houston game this last weekend, as well as all of our normal games because I'm coaching. But let me run down the scoreboard real quick, and then you and I will wrap it up with some of the things, kind of what our future plans are for this. So Thursday night, Downey went to Modesto. Downey put it on Modesto pretty good, beat him 54-20. Davis and Bayer, old rivals. Bayer walks away with a 14-0 victory. Tokay and Lodi, again, the hometown, rivalry game. Lodi beats Tokay 55-27. Denair plays Waterford. Waterford walks away with that game 47-14. McNair and Bear Creek in the SJ2A. McNair beats Bear Creek 26-8. Linden beats Franklin in a 5-mile rivalry game. Linden 57, Franklin 7. Going down the list, Gustine went to Livingston. Livingston walks away with a 35-13 victory. Delhi played Big Valley Christian. Big Valley Christian beats Delhi 35-12. Tracy and West, another in-town rivalry. Tracy takes West 54-8. Grigori goes to Enox and beats them 34-0. Mountain House goes to Patterson, and Patterson puts up probably the highest score of the year. Beats Mountain House 71-14. Pittman, Turlock travels to Pittman, walks away with a 49-7 victory. The series goes to Los Banos, losing 24-31. Chavez went to Stag. Stag walks away with that game 49-16. Let's keep going. Tokay. Oh, we already went over the Tokay Lodi game. Oakdale went down to Merced and beat them 35-14. And then on Saturday, the Kimball Houston game. Houston ends up winning that game 23-18. Kimball had the ball towards the end of the game, made a mad rush trying to catch up, but just, to no avail. Probably would have been a little bit different situation if it hadn't been so windy, but taking nothing away from Houston. Great ball club, played tough, super physical, wanted to get down, and they did what they needed to do. So Millennium goes to Delta Charter. Millennium walks away with a 22-20 victory. Manteca kind of steps up their game and goes and plays McClymonds. And they end up losing 34-14, but that's that old, not being afraid of any opponent that's willing to step across the field from you. El Camino travels to Oristimbo, losing 41-36. So that's kind of a rundown of the last week of the season. We're not going to go through statistics because a lot of schools just did not post. And so it's going to be, we don't want to pick an athlete of the week or anything like that. I think the athlete of the week is all of those who ADs and coaches and administrators and advocates that made this season happen, and and the parents for trusting coaches and schools and administrators to make sure that their children are taken care of, when in the hands of others during at the end of a pandemic or in the middle of a pandemic, however you want to view it. So for me, my player of the week is everybody, that all the supporting cast of allowing the season to happen.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of comments on the scores. I don't remember if you said the Escalon Sierra score. I think Escalon rolled Sierra pretty big, but I will say this. I think Sierra, because I'm a fan of Sierra, and I think they were without their star running back, so that game might have been a little lopsided because of that. But no surprise, Escalon wins that game. But the other thing too, Houston beating Kimball, that's a big score. That just, again, that goes back to what you said at the top of the show. The TVL flexes their muscle, and they beat Houston beats a very good Kimball team. So, some good scores this week for sure. Again, the takeaways, getting to see these games, these non-traditional matchups, that might be one of the big positives out of this season is getting to see games that we wouldn't normally get to see.
I would 100% agree. I did miss that Escalon Sierra score. That's my apologies. Escalon walked away with a 48-0 victory. And I wholeheartely agree with you. There's these matchups that we would have never seen in the past, because most of the time, you have a school that doesn't get there's no benefit for them to play, a lower division school, or a school that's not necessarily as talented and has a strength of schedule that weakens their strength of schedule. So typically, you'd like to play a stronger strength of schedule. Even if you happen to lose a game, you can gain ground in the rankings and position yourself in a better way for playoffs. But what you and I have both talked about offline quite a bit is, you got a league like the TVL, and the MLL has, the Amadors and the Calaverises and the Sonoras of the world. And then, you got Argonaut and, Argonaut and those other schools that aren't going to, they're not going to take a night off either, so I think, maybe that traditional way of thinking changes a little bit, understanding that, we noticed this, a lot with us playing Lodi and Tokay. We weren't, they had some talent, it's not to deflect or take away from what they did, but we're talented too. We just don't have the depth. So you go into a situation where you're traveling 19 players, 3 guys get hurt, you're down to 16 in the second, starting the second half, against a roster of 40 or 50, where you're there again, 40 or 50 pretty dang good athletes. That's where I think the separation exists. You and I have noticed, you go to Escalon can play with anybody. Houston this year could have played with anybody. Hillmar can play with anybody. Ripon can play with anybody. And these are relatively small schools. So I 100% agree with your analysis of that.
Yeah, and trying to stay on the theme of pulling positives out of this. I think hopefully, and this is to all of the underclassmen, to the juniors, the sophomores, the freshmen. Hopefully, they look at this and it's almost like getting a taste of spring football in college. Hopefully, this is they look at this and utilize these 5 games and these practices that they've had as a spring football challenge that carries over into the fall and just increases or improves the brand of local high school football. And I think it will. I think, kids will go into the fall maybe more ready to play football than they ever have because of this.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's, I think a lot of good things are going to come out of this. And I think there's a lot of eyes that have been open to what the opportunities become, and so, you and I started this podcast with the intention of covering, all of the Valley sports. And I think that you and I both agree that now, with we have a better understanding of what's really involved in this. And so for us to do, to have proper coverage, I think, we're going to scale back and just cover football for the next year. It's very difficult for us to get under the hood, and really for this to be a year-long thing for us would be difficult with us having other jobs and things like that. So I think, as we proceed into this next season, we're really going to just we'll be focused on football. We're going to look for some representatives that will help us do recaps of the previous week's games, and maybe even previews for the games that are upcoming in their individual leagues. So we have more boots on the ground. So we have, people with better knowledge base than us. So we're not just covering this 40,000 foot view. I mean, you and I are on the same page on that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I think we agree. We want to hear from all student athletes that are moving on, that have made a commitment. We still want to talk about you and talk about what your future holds, and still maybe have a conversation of what that, what your path looked like, so that it can be put out there for other younger student athletes to see what it takes. And so, while our focus will be on high school football, we're still gonna have some conversations about these other student athletes that are committing to move on to play in college.
Oh, for sure. And you and I have both talked about, with how we brand our podcast, and as we grow, the evolution for us is, probably finding some other hosts to do these other sports. We have the studio available, and we have the platform available. So, I think in the next 6 months or so, you might start seeing some us reaching out and trying to find people in the area that do some interviews and maybe hire some people on that will help us to see this through the way we initially saw it. I think that both of us are in agreement that it just is a much bigger undertaking than we even could have ever imagined in the beginning. We were initially, with all the COVID stuff, we were like, we don't have anything to talk about, and now it's like, how do we cover everything?
Yeah, for sure. And these are what we would call good problems to have, getting all these sports back. It's awesome, but I completely agree. And it's going to give us the opportunity to have some fun with local high school football and really showcase, like you said, the Central Valley is loaded with talent, whether it's, Stockton, Modesto, all the way up to Galt, and everywhere in between. There's a lot of great football happening and a lot of great individual players, and it's going to be fun to keep covering them.
Yeah. And before we kind of cut out of here, it's only been 20 minutes. We're usually a 45-minute broadcast, but I think it's important for us to give praise to those that have helped us along the way. We've had, multiple interviews with, and you help me out when I miss these people, Scott, but Andrew Beam, Tony Franks, we had Chris Teven on earlier in the season for basketball over at Weston Ranch, he's now at Modesto Christian. We've had who else have we had on the show? What's that?
Coach from Somerville.
Oh yeah, Leveros, Mr. Coach Leveros. We've had multiple people. Frosty's helped us down there with with some of the TVL stuff.
And I do want to mention one thing about Frost. He is obviously a wealth of information. I kind of consider him a TVL historian. He really does a great job of knowing his TVL football. But I just want to say this one thing about him. I talked to him this week, and he had mentioned that he'd really like to see an Escalon-Hilmar game. We're beyond the seas now, but he'd like to see an Escalon-Hilmar game. So I'm thinking it's not beyond these coaches to find some park somewhere between Escalon and Helmar, line out the field, and line these kids up and play on their own. That would be awesome. I don't know that would ever happen. It's one of those cool things that would, if it did happen, be really cool. They would never say anything to anybody. But if it does happen, coaches, and you're listening to this, please give me a call because I'm going to come watch it.
And we also have, you had multiple. I mean, I'm sure Houston would want to throw their hat in the ring. They had a pretty dang good season, and they're probably not going to be one of the ones that want to be left out of the conversation. But and going down the list, we've had a ton of great supporters. Mark Santos has been a phenomenal supporter for us. You also interviewed Coach Santos, and then we've had Kimball football has really been backed us with
Nick Coronado was a great one
with Nick and Alonzo Jackson and those guys out there, and Nolan Raw down there at Houston. Some of these people have really been an integral part of us growing this and getting ourselves a good opportunity to put our brand out there and kind of talk about the things that we have so much affinity for. We just really think that it was an underserviced area, and now it's pretty cool because you see other podcasts along with ours, the cutback sports or something like that. They're doing a local podcast as well, covering. So between the two shows, you're getting a lot of information. And like like you and I mentioned, it's just making sure that we're doing everybody the proper service, and making sure that we're it's called Cutback High School Football is what that other podcast is. So there's just a lot for us to be grateful for. We started this thing in August, I believe, and we currently have almost 165 followers. So, for a little, quickly put together show in the spring sports, we expect that to, climb much higher. We're going to continue to focus on, the positives of high school football and the advancements of these kids' opportunities at the next level. Well, I'm sure that you and I, we've talked about this a little bit, is covering some of the Delta and MJC games, because they happen to be in our backyard, and highlighting some of the kids that, we've talked about over the years that happen to get into those programs, and how they've, how their careers grow that way as well. So, and there's been a lot of kids that we've talked about so far that, we've had Brooke Bryan on, and Gabby Herrera, and Skylar May, and Shelby Lackey, and, Nick Coronado. You go down the list of kids that really have helped us grow this brand, and, we couldn't be more thankful. I think we're going to take, a month off or so before we post our next podcast, but we're going to reach out, and I'll post online on Twitter as well, looking for some correspondence for each individual league. So, I think we have a pretty good idea who we want in the TVL and the MLL. I think those are two are covered pretty easily. But we'll be looking for somebody to represent the TCAL, somebody to represent the SJ2A, somebody to represent the VOL. So as we get into this, the Modesto leagues, and also the D7 leagues. So, as we grow in the next month or so, we'll start posting that out there, looking for correspondence, and it's relatively easy. We're just going to ask you to record on a recording device, and then we'll teach you how to plug it in and send it over. So, if you have some, if you're wanting to be a part of this and helping us grow this, it would be amazing for us to have more people affiliated that are going to give us a lot more detailed information. And obviously, we wouldn't be able to put it in a 45-minute show, so it'd be almost a daily podcast where we'd post recaps and previews of each individual league throughout the week. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or
No, I think you've lined it out pretty well. It's the future looks good, and we've got some good friends, like you said, involved with this show, and hopefully we're able to keep doing it.
Yeah. Lastly, we just wanted to thank every single one of you for listening, for all the people that have contributed. I'd like to thank Scott, and for his time, and Jake Peters for holding it down for us, doing the production side of this. The evolution of our program will be, we'll have, a website that's dedicated to football and in the 209. And then we'll have, we'll probably start doing some more audio visual type of podcast where you get to see our ugly faces as well. So we're in a spot where I think we can almost make this anything that we want, without the fans and of the sports and the players and the schools. We wouldn't be able to even be doing this. But it's been a great opportunity for both of us. I think we've enjoyed it. I think we're probably both fulfilling a bucket list issue for us. Both of us have probably at one point wanted to be a broadcaster. So,
well, we love high school football too. And that's the big thing.
Yeah. All right, buddy. We'll travel safe. We'll get back to everybody. And like I said, like a month or so, I'll keep posting on Twitter and with some follow up, and look forward to the fall.